Hi, everyone. Welcome back to What They Don't Say. I'm Shannon.
I'm Lauren.
We're happy that you're here.
I have a fun work story.
Go for it, Lauren.
Because we've talked about my poo-poo problems on
For
this
anybody
podcast.
who's new, Lauren has a little bit of a poopy problem sometimes.
Well, I really had a poo-poo problem when I was little because I could not poop.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but I can't, as a child, you already feel pretty helpless a lot of the time. When you're hot and you're trying to put your mittens on and they won't go on, and you can't unzip your jacket when you're
hot
little.
and you're trying to put your mittens on.
Think about when you're little, if you're outside in the snow or something and your mom is put on your mittens and you're I'm hot and this jacket's uncomfortable and the mittens won't go on. You're so helpless as a child. So I can't imagine being helpless while also having pooping problems.
Well, this week, over the past couple of days, I've been having some tummy issues. I don't know if I ate something bad, but yesterday morning, I had all these back-to-back meetings. I had spent most of the morning in and out of the bathroom every 4 minutes. Not an exaggeration.
Oh, God.
And so I went into these meetings and I was a little bit nervous. In the first meeting...
Because not for the meetings. You were nervous you were going to shit yourself.
Yes. But the first meeting was a meeting with my team, which is 3 people in total, and then one other person who is my boss's boss.
Okay.
So it's only 4 of us, and it's only a 20-minute meeting. So it's if you have to go to the bathroom in this meeting, you can hold it. You're not going to take time to get up and go to the bathroom during a 20-minute meeting. And so I can't unnoticeably get up and go to the bathroom, right? There's not 30 people in the Zoom call. There's 4. And I'm just sitting there listening to this important guy from my company talk, and I'm just thinking I'm gonna shit my pants.
Yeah.
I am literally gonna shit my pants, and I can't be hey, pause, I need to go to the bathroom, because then I just look like a dick who couldn't hold your pee for 15 minutes. But I can't also say, hey, pause, I need to go shit, because I'm about to shit my fucking pants right now.
Please tell me you took them to the bathroom with you on the Zoom call.
No, I have never held my butt cheeks so...
You prairie dogged that shit? Literally?
It was clenching so hard to make it through that meeting, and it ended up being fine. I think my life lesson here is that it's okay to pause and be hey, I don't feel well. I'll be right back.
That's true. I forget about that you can say words I don't feel well instead of I have to shit.
But for me, you can't. To me, it's you all or nothing, baby. You either don't say anything or you're I'm gonna shit my pants.
Yeah, something everybody can relate to, whether they want to admit it or not. Even Paris Hilton probably occasionally feels like she's going to shit herself. And speaking of shit,
the theme of today's episode is just shit.
Specifically, not just the type that comes out of your rear end, but court. We have gotten a lot of questions about, is court worth it? And we had done an episode kind of to court or not to court where we talked about it, but I don't think we ever explicitly said just straight up, is going to court for a sexual assault case worth it? Everybody knows that the odds of a perpetrator actually spending any time behind bars is very, very low. 975 out of 1,000 perpetrators will walk free. So there's a conviction rate of about 2.5%, which is really fucking low considering how frequent this crime is occurring. So is it worth it when the odds are stacked against you? Is it worth it?
Yes. There's a lot of things going on here. There's a lot of perspectives. There's a lot of different situations. So for me, sitting here and saying, yes, court is worth it, that doesn't mean that it will be the same for anybody else. It's going to be different always. But in my mind, if we continue to push for perpetrators to be held accountable, whether that is through the justice system or not, if we continue that push, then more perpetrators will end up behind bars. I also think that regardless of what happens within a trial, whether they are found guilty or they're not found guilty, or they end up behind bars or they don't end up behind bars, the fact that you took those steps to say, hey, what you did is fucked up, it is not okay, you need to be held accountable, that's at the very least going to scare their pants off a little bit.
Scare their pants right off. Yeah, I think a lot when thinking about court, a lot of people just look at it from a very black and white objective standpoint of court is only worth it if your perpetrator is found guilty and they're in prison. And the reality is yeah, of course, that's the reason if you're pursuing a criminal case, that's why you're doing it, because that is the ideal outcome. But I think in order to really look at it from a more holistic perspective, Like there are things that you will give up if you're going through a legal process. There are things that you will gain. And you can't, like, you don't always know what you're going to be giving up before, and you don't always know what you're going to gain after. But I think it's really important to go into it knowing that regardless of the outcome, like that your healing cannot be dependent on if your perpetrator is found guilty or not.
I think a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on that too. And there is the side of like, well, then I have to put myself through this trauma and through this hell, and I have to deal with a bunch of bullshit. And it's like, yeah, you do. But so does the other person.
Like the perpetrator.
The perpetrator. And they're the ones that did something wrong. They're the ones that should actually be scared, not you. Mm-hmm. And obviously it's a scary situation. It's nerve-wracking. There's a lot of anxiety that goes into being in a court case and in a trial. But at the end of the day, they have to show up just like you do. And they're the ones that are actually guilty, not you. I think one of the most traumatizing parts of being in a trial is that they try to make you feel like you're guilty for some reason, but you have to continually be like, no, they're the ones that did this to me. We are here because of them. I did nothing wrong.
Sometimes I look back, like so for Lauren and I, our court process was a little over 2 years, start to finish, like from reporting all the way to the verdict. And I really look back and think of it as like such a blurry time. Like now I feel like it was really hard. I feel like the trauma that I got from that whole process might have been greater than the trauma itself, or just it's a very like long drawn out trauma. But something that I think a lot about is all the things that victims who are going through the court process have to give up. And I think something for me that I didn't really understand going into the process was like I had heard, oh, it's long, oh, it's time consuming, it's emotionally draining, but I didn't really comprehend how much of my mental capacity and energy I had to give up to the process itself, to the process of justice. Like during exams, I don't know why, it was literally always during exams I would start thinking about the court case, probably because I didn't actually want to be focusing on.
It was also a lot of stress.
Yeah, true, so true. But the amount of like time I just spent thinking about the case, not even productive thoughts a lot of the time, but just in between classes. If you have a call with your attorney, then whatever you have after that, your brain is probably going to be thinking about the call that you just had instead of being present in what you're currently doing. The amount of energy that I spent, just being stressed and not knowing what was happening behind the scenes. And I think a lot about how like that felt like that time and energy and capacity was stolen from me, but at the same time, like it was a choice for me to pursue this case. But I think like what more energy could I have put into work or school or ice skating or like my friends or just literally being like a 20-year-old girl had I not been going through this process. So that was one thing that I gave up that I didn't understand. It's not just like, oh, I'm pursuing court on the side as like a little hobby. It's like a full-time job going through the justice process.
Yeah, I think that I like split my life into two. Like I was two different humans.
She was Hannah Montana.
And that's a very common thing to do with trauma. But there was like this version of me that was dealing with a court case, and there was this version of me that was just like a college student. And I separated it so hard. Like I would leave school to go deal with something with a court case, and I wouldn't tell my friends. I wouldn't tell anyone where I was going. Like it was just when I was there, I was there. When I was gone, I was gone. And I think that was like a way to try to salvage this like college experience or something like that. People always ask you, oh, where did you go to college and how was your college experience? And like, did you party a lot? Like, did you do X, Y, and Z? And I am just sitting there like, my entire college experience was defined by a sexual assault trial.
But yeah, because it was your whole college career.
Yeah, it was literally my entire 4 years of college. And I mean, now I can sit here and be like, LOL.
Really?
Back then there were a lot of sacrifices that had to be made. But also that being said, I was still able to live my life, and I was still able to go on trips and be on the climbing team and make friends and do well in school. And so I don't want people to think that it will completely, take over their entire life. It does sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes throughout the years it did, but it wasn't like that the entire time. Like I was still able to be a college student and be successful and be happy. And I just hope people, when they're listening to this, they don't think that you can't be happy or be successful in other areas of your life or build relationships. You 100% can. There will be times throughout going through a court case where, it's going to get a little bit heavier and you're going to have to devote more time and energy into it. But it's few and far between, I would say. And you can still have a good, normal life. You can still heal. You can still, go to therapy and, work on those healing processes. That stuff doesn't just pause. I promise you, your life doesn't just go on hold, but you have to make an effort to ensure that doesn't happen as well. And you have to be, very self-aware of that. And it does, take a lot of energy here, there, and everywhere, but it is possible. And, it was possible for me to have an overall good college career, despite the fact that I was going through this the entire time.
It's like a weird thing. Like a part of you will feel maybe stuck in that assault because you still have to keep reliving it, but like the world will keep turning. And especially if you're like going into college or something, like you're surrounded by such a new community. And what I found too was I was surprised how many people, like when I started opening up about what I was going through, I was surprised how many people either had a sexual assault experience or like my roommate at the time, she had been through a court case with it. And so it was kind of a moment of bonding, a little trauma bonding moment, but it made it very clear about who was there to support me, because I definitely leaned on the people around me a lot. And I felt that it's a very monotonous process in the sense of it is kind of a reoccurring thing. And I can imagine it's very different case by case, but I felt like I had a lot of similar feelings all the time about what's going on. Why don't I know what's going on? Why is it taking so long? Like a lot of those thoughts, and being able to lean on the people around me. Like I felt really, really grateful for that. But Lauren is right. You can live a life outside of this, even though it might not feel like it sometimes.
And also advocate for yourself. I think going off of what you said, I was so shocked by how many people supported me and wanted to help me, like from my family to my friends to my professors, who I would be like, hey, I have this thing going on. And they were so supportive and so kind and gave me so much grace. And I was very surprised by that because I didn't really know how, from like an academic perspective, how my life was going to be affected, to what extent. And so then when I was advocating for myself and I was like, hey, I just can't get this done right now, people want to see you successful that are in your life. And you have to give them the opportunity to show you that. Whether it's, a trial or like, you just had a sexual assault experience and you're trying to figure it out, whatever it might be. You don't obviously have to like go and say specific details. You can just say like you're going through something and like you need some time, and advocate for that time and advocate for your healing.
There also might be, like, if you're actively in therapy, your therapist might be able to write a letter to a professor or something. Or in my case, and I believe it was something similar with you as well, I went to the Office of Victim Assistance at my school, and I'm assuming it's different at every school. Basically, I just disclosed my sexual assault to them. And this was I waited until probably 2 months before the trial to actually go and advocate for myself. But I went to the office, I disclosed my sexual assault, I said I'm going through a case, and they sent an email to all of my professors. It didn't have any details. It just said, basically, when the professors get an email from the OVA office, they're like, oh shit, this is serious. And very quickly, all my professors were so compassionate. They extended deadlines, anything that I needed. I didn't realize that a resource like that even existed until I waited a long time. So if you're at college or you're at high school, look around. There might be a resource that could be incredibly beneficial to you. I have like 2 other things that I gave up for the court process. I don't want this to sound like just a long list of like, this is every reason that it sucks. But I think it's really important to talk about things that people like that I didn't realize before going into court. So we've mentioned that we were able to lean on some family and friends, but I also felt like this sense of like kind of like your Hannah Montana lifestyle that you were talking about, this sense of like privacy and secrecy towards some things. Like if I went on a date with somebody new, I couldn't just blurt out, oh, I'm in a rape case right now. And like with our grandmother, I don't know if she actually ever.
She doesn't know.
She doesn't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I asked because she was like, why is Shannon coming into town?
Yes.
And I look at my dad and I like whisper, I'm like, does she know? And he was like, no. And I was like, She's coming. We have an event in San Francisco that we're going to.
Our other uncle, like, he knew about it, but didn't, just kind of heard through the grapevine and didn't know how to approach it. And it became
who the hell knows how to approach it?
Exactly. It's like you lean heavily on the people around you that you know you can, but then there are people that maybe you would want to tell or want to talk to, but it's just such a, like, you're living this private life and you don't even know if you want to open it up, because then when you have an update, are you gonna have to update that person too? Are you gonna have to fill them in, you know?
It ain't that deep, as weird as that sounds. It's like when you tell people, that's amazing, but you don't have to then be like, this is everything that's happening within this topic, let me tell you. You could just be like, hey, BT dubs, I have this thing going on, it's fucked, I know it's fucked, you don't need to sit here and like feel sorry for me or apologize. Like, I care about you, you're an important person in my life, and I just wanted you to be aware. And I think that like we've gotten better at that. And like I remember when like me and Shannon had dinner over the summer with our cousin, and he didn't know, and we told him, and it was like a very good conversation, you know, like he was like, that sucks, like I'm sorry you guys went through that. But then we were, you know, we just like kind of talked through it for a few minutes, and it didn't feel as hard as you would have thought, which I think is interesting, because these people care about you. And if they don't care about you, then this is a great way to find out. Then you can be like, all right, see you later, I don't want you in my life anymore.
Hannah Montana life might be there, but everybody loved finding out that Hannah Montana was also Miley Cyrus.
Yeah.
And vice versa. I mean, these all feel like big things that I not lost, things that I gave up, things that I sacrificed. I don't even want to say it like that, but I think one of the most universal experiences about going through a court process, regardless of whether it's civil or criminal or whatever, is this questioning your story.
I'm so sorry.
You're fine. We haven't burped on here in a long time, honestly.
That was a good one.
We've been so professional recently. Yeah, you know, after you're sexually assaulted, you experience denial. Like, a lot of people experience denial. A lot of people question their story. But specifically when you are pursuing a legal case, many times your story has to be repeated over and over again. You are talking to new people. Maybe you're working to prepare to testify. And it can really like fuck with your head of knowing, of like starting to wonder, like, wow, I've had to dissect my story so many times that I don't even know what's true or what's not. Or maybe it's been 2 years since it happened, and people are asking you questions that you don't know the answer to. And so if you don't know the answer to it, then maybe you don't actually know what happened, and maybe it didn't happen. And it's very easy to start to be very confused about what happened to you because of this process.
But I also do think it does bring clarity to it too.
True.
And
really true.
I think that as monotonous and kind of sucky having these conversations are over and over again, and like telling your story is over and over again, it also kind of gave me confidence in what happened to me. And it helps me, I guess it just like helps me realize that, yeah, like this was messed up. I am the victim here. This guy sucks and should go to prison. Mm-hmm. So even though it was exhausting at times, and it did feel so repetitive and redundant, and you have defense attorneys who are like trying to poke holes in your story, I think for me over time it just gave me more and more confidence and kind of helped me own my shit and feel like I had some sort of power in the situation.
Do you think that you felt that way because of the way that your attorney was reinforcing that, like, you are the victim here, you did not commit a crime? Was it because you had to sort of think more about exactly what happened and you had not talked about it, and so this was you like understanding? And like, what about it exactly?
Yeah, I think all of the above. And I think that oftentimes we don't talk about what happens to us, right? Or if we do, it's a couple times. Maybe it's to a therapist, maybe it's to your best friend or your mom or whoever. Then you kind of spend a lot of energy trying not to think about it. And I think because you spend so much time trying not to think about it, then a lot of like doubt can creep in, and kind of blame or shame can creep in. But when you're like, yeah, I need to tell this story over and over and over again, and I'm hearing other people tell their stories, and I'm, seeing these overlaps, it was kind of a lot of these moments for me of just shit, like, yeah, this was bad, and I'm doing the right thing by being here. It also helped heal in certain ways because I had to face it, right? Like when we go sit in therapy and we do like exposure therapy, and they make you talk about, you know, an incident, something that's happened. But they're doing that so that you feel what you're feeling in that moment. You experience some, like, kind of what you're experiencing in that moment. You're being exposed to this thing that was super painful, and then that actually helps you heal. And so in some ways it kind of was like exposure therapy. But once again, we also had a good support system. We had good attorneys. You know, we had all these people who, you know, were rooting for us.
Even though it didn't always feel like it also,
Yeah.
like,
oh, yeah.
from the legal side. But I feel like you're so positive today in this episode.
Well, I'm trying to like counterbalance us too, because
Yeah.
there's like two different perspectives and two different sides. Like I felt everything that Shannon was feeling.
Like, and we don't want to blow smoke up your ass too. Like,
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing, is like the biggest lie anybody could ever tell you about going through a court process with sexual assault is that it will be easy, it will be fast, you won't feel it, and you will have a good result. Like, we don't want to bullshit you on that, but
It is hard, and I have felt everything that Shannon is feeling, but I've also felt all the things that I'm saying. And so I do think that there are positive things that can come out of this. And I think, you know, when I look back on the situation and everything we went through, I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't go back and decide not to do it or to drop out or anything like that, because at the end of the day, regardless of what the outcome was, I know that I didn't give up, and I gave everything that I had to doing something that mattered. Mm-hmm. And I did it for myself. I did it for Shannon. I did it for any other victim or potential victim or future victim. And so like I sit here and I feel good that I went through the whole thing and I gave it everything that I had, and I have no regrets within that. Hopefully our case like did have an impact and did make a difference. It's not like we're really in the community where it happened in, but you never know. And at the end of the day, I think that's really what matters. Like the outcome can have quite an impact on you and on your healing for sure. And I'm not going to lie and say it's not true, but at least I know I gave it everything that I had.
that's like a big thing. And I totally am on the same page with you from the standpoint of I wouldn't go back, I wouldn't change it. And something that I think that I really, really gained, and I'm pretty sure we've talked about this before, but I really feel that him being forced to hear me and hear all the victims collectively felt so empowering.
Oh, yeah.
There was really nothing like our attorney saying, "Is your perpetrator in the room with us right now?" Yes. "Can you point to him?" Yes. And then like pointing at him and forcing our perpetrator to sit and listen to every single detail, because yeah, it was really hard and very painful to recount those details in front of a jury of strangers and adults in the room and attorneys who were judging us and dissecting everything. But it also meant that he had to sit through it just as much as I did. And that
even
was
more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because he had to be there all the time where we didn't.
At a time where my autonomy was taken away when I was assaulted, at a time where I wasn't listened to when I was assaulted. And then for the tables to turn and for me to be forcing him to hear me, like that felt very, very powerful to me. And I get to live with the satisfaction that I called him out on his illegal behavior.
Yeah. And let me tell you, that feels really good. Right before I had to go testify, I was so terrified.
Oh my God. Same.
Like there is no other word. Like I was just so terrified. I'm surprised I didn't vomit. It was sickening. Like it was a sickening feeling to sit and wait for them to call me into the courtroom and testify. I thought that I was honestly just going to drop dead, frankly. But I had on a great suit and I felt confidence in how I looked. And the second that those courtroom doors opened up, I was like, I am a badass bitch.
She stomped up that hoe.
Yeah, I scooted. No, I didn't scoot. I waltzed my little ass up to that stand, and I felt so powerful because I realized that like I'm not the one on trial here. He is. And I get to tell my story right now in front of him. Like it was actually one of the most empowering feelings I've ever had in my entire life. So yes, I thought I was going to drop dead right before it happened. But the second I walked into that courtroom, it all changed. And I realized that I actually did have power and autonomy in this situation. And that was a very cool feeling to have.
That's such a good reminder too, that when you're on the stand, the defense attorney might make you feel like you don't have control over what you're saying. And a lot of the times they will phrase questions or rephrase how you said something in a way that doesn't feel true or isn't true at all. And that will make you feel like you're losing track of this narrative and that, oh, the power is going away. But like when you are on the stand, like you do have control over what you say. And once again, a defense attorney might corner you into saying something that you don't fully agree with or isn't quite right. And like you don't get to say all the details because they cut you off. But ultimately, like you have control over the narrative. Like you have control over everything that's coming out of your mouth. And you're going to say some shit that later you'll be like, fuck, I wish I didn't phrase it like that. But that's just because you're nervous, and you're nervous because you care and you're doing something incredible. That's really fucking hard. So that's a natural.
Yeah. And I'm sure we'll talk about this much more on another episode, but if that's something that you're scared of, just having, you know, defense attorneys try to tear you apart, I just remembered that the only thing that they can do in this situation is grasp at straws. That you're the one that's telling the truth. Your lawyers are the ones that are telling the truth. And literally all they have is to just make up things.
And which they will. And they will.
Yeah. And they will make up things and they'll ask you about it. And I literally would like giggle inside because I was like, they literally have nothing. So they're just trying to make up a bunch of bullshit and try to like convince me to believe it. And so I think that once I realized that, it also kind of changed the narrative and made me realize that I have a lot of power in this situation. So don't let that fear deter you, because there are ways to feel empowered in those situations.
And they do that for a living. Like, don't forget that defense attorney's job is to make your story crumble. It is to make you feel like shit so that you give in. And so remember, they do that. They spend 8 hours a day doing that. And you live your life and are going to do this like to pursue justice. And so don't start to feel bad if they're making you feel like shit. In those moments, it's really important that you remember why you're doing it, that you have the power, and that they might be belittling you, but at the end of the day, you are not on trial. You have put somebody else on trial. Your story is true. It is real. Trust your gut. And once again, you're doing something really fucking hard. When you were talking about you felt like you were going to vomit, this is like a very small thing. And this isn't like how to do court, but because we're talking about this, it's something that I thought of. Like, it's really important that you do eat during court. But I did throw up like 6 or 7 times on the morning of testifying. I didn't throw up because
she was hungover.
Yeah, can you? I mean, honestly, I wouldn't. It's not a bad call. Like, wouldn't be that surprised if I was, just because it's such an emotionally draining experience. But
yeah, me and my dad, after court would go, we were staying at this like cool hotel that had this cool bar, and we would literally just go sit at the bar and drink. Like, what else are you supposed to do? My dad was like, "Let me buy you a margarita," and I'm like, "Oh, thanks, Dad."
Well, because you're also not supposed to be talking about it either. Like, that was something.
You're not. You can't talk about it outside of court. So you're just like, well.
Hey, Dad. How's your margarita? Good. How was your day? It was fine. Cool. Okay. The end. Yeah. Anyways, so long story short, my answer for is court worth it is yes. It is not because it was a lovely experience, but it was because my rapist had to listen to me. I can imagine that there's somebody out there right now who is like, I didn't go to court and now I wish that I had. What I have to say to you is that you, in the moments after your assault and in the coming days, weeks, months, years, you did the best that you could to survive. And you felt that pursuing a court case maybe wasn't for you. And you need to trust that decision and know that that was the right decision for you. If you're still able to open up a court case and you're thinking about it, this would be my call to action of like encouraging you to do that, or encouraging you to consider and pursue that if that's something that you feel like you want. Ultimately, you did what you needed to do to survive.
And that's the most important thing. Some of the most fulfilling things in life are some of the hardest things that you go through in life. I think at the beginning of this whole experience for Shannon and I was like very unsure about the whole thing. Like very unsure.
There was many times.
Yeah.
I didn't think we were going to have you.
Yeah, seriously. But now looking back, I am glad that I did it. I'm glad that I stuck with it. And I'm glad I gave it all I had, because now I don't have any regrets about it. I know I said that, but I'm going to re-emphasize that.
Absolutely.
Well, we're going to wrap up this episode. We'll end it where we began, because Shannon has to poop her pants.
No, I'm going to be fine. Thank you guys so much for listening. We love you all so much. If you have
an episode idea or a question or a comment or, you just want to see what's up, you can contact us at whattheydon'tsay.thepodcast@gmail.com, or you can go to our website, whattheydon'tsay.com, and contact us directly from there as well. If you want to follow us on socials or anything like that, TikTok, Instagram, it's What They Don't Say Official. Shannon?
That's everything. Thank you guys so much. We love you. We'll catch you on the flip side.
Cheers.
Cheers. Okay, I'm actually going to shit myself.